So I'm really looking forward to seeing what you've learned so far with Ms. Rabashek. So the plan is, what we're going to do is follow on from the work you've done on plants and their reproduction. Today's lesson will just be a recap lesson. So this video is going to just quickly go over each of the different things that you've looked at so far. There'll be one slide for each lesson. That'll review what you've done so far, and then we'll have a look at where we're going to go with the rest of the topic. So, first thing, the plan. The objective today is to go through the different areas that you've looked at. So we're going to have a quick summary of plant classification, which you've already done. We'll have a look at flower structure. Again, you've already gone through that. Pollination and fertilisation. So they'll all be included in today's video. Then you're going to have a go at doing a quick quiz. That quick quiz is up as an assignment. It's a Google sheet, so you should just be able to fill it in and it will mark it all automatically and give me the feedback so I'll know where your understanding is so far. And I'm also going to ask you to do a review poster, which I'll explain more at the end of the video. So if we start off with plant classification. So you already would have gone through this with Ms. Rabashek, but if we remember, there are 5 kingdoms that all living things are divided up into. Now we're specifically looking at the plant kingdom here. Now, what you need to be aware of is there are different types, different groups of plants. And the main groups that we look at are the flowering plants, and all flowering plants will have the things pointed out here. So they'll have roots, xylem tissue to carry water, flowers, and large flat leaves. They don't have cones. Then another plant group that you'll be familiar with, which is conifers. Again, conifers have roots, they'll have xylem tissue to carry water around the plant. They have cones, which makes them different to flowering plants, and their leaves are normally needle-shaped, and they don't have flowers. So you could use that information to have a look around your garden and just start to try and classify and see what group the different plants are. Another group are the ferns. They'll have roots and xylem tissue to carry water around. They don't have flowers or cones, and they have a stereotypical kind of ferny leaf. Then there are the mosses. Mosses have very, very thin leaves that lose lots of water, so normally mosses are in very, very damp areas where they don't have to worry about losing too much water. Very low down, very small. They don't have roots and xylem tissue to carry that water around, so again, they need to be in damp conditions. So none of that should be new, it's just a quick recap so you know where we are going from. The second thing you would have had a look at, and I've seen that Mr. Rabashek's done a plant flower dissection video for you on this, is flower structure. Now the flower is the reproductive part of a flowering plant. So what we're looking at is a male and a female part. So if we start off with the female part. So the female part has a stigma, a style, the ovary, and then an ovule. And the purpose and the reason for that, the stigma is a sticky part of the plant, and that's where any pollen that is transferred to that flower will stick and collect. The pollen will grow a tubule, and it will fertilise the ovule, which is the female egg cell. The other side of the flower on these notes is the male part, where we've got the stamen. The stamen is made up of the anther and the filament. Now, on the anthers, pollen is produced. This pollen is released, and it will either be carried by the wind or it will be carried by other animals, normally insects. And again, that shouldn't be new. That should be something you're familiar with. So it is just a quick recap that we're going through. Now, talking of that pollen transfer, if we look at the different types of pollination, we'll start off with insect pollination. Now, plants that use insects to pollinate themselves will need to attract those insects. So there will normally be brightly coloured petals, or there'll be strong scents coming from that flower. Insects are attracted to the flower. Pollen then sticks to those insects. Those insects fly to another flower, transferring that pollen from one to the other. Now, not all plants will transfer pollen through insect pollination. So the other way of pollinating plants is wind pollination. Here you'll see that there aren't bright colours and there are no strong scents because there's no need to attract insects. But what is different is the anthers are hanging outside of the leaf-like structures outside of the flower-like structures. This allows the pollen to be blown away in the wind. That pollen is carried by the wind in whichever direction the wind is blowing. And then on another plant, you'll find that the stigmas are also exposed. This allows them to capture any pollen that is blowing away through past them, again causing pollination. So they're the two types of pollination that you will have looked at. Now, the next thing that we're having a look at is different ways that seeds are dispersed. So once a plant has been pollinated, that will then develop, that ovule will develop and grow into a seed. Now that seed needs to be dispersed. If it grows very, very close to the parent plant, it will be in competition with the parent plant for water, for light, for any minerals in the soil. So to give it the best possible shot at successful growth and then continued reproduction, the seed needs to be transferred and dispersed as far away from the parent plant as possible. Now, there are lots of different ways that plants have evolved of doing this. And this slide just shows a quick summary of some of the different ideas. So one way is by using wind. So there might be different structures on the seed which can transfer and carry the seed as far away from the parent plant as possible. Sycamore seeds are a good example of this. There might be hooks or barbs or sticky bits that stick to animals. So when animals brush past the plant, these seeds will stick to the animals and then they'll be transferred for as far as that animal travels. Or the seed can be contained within a fruit. So then the animal will come along and eat that fruit. Then whenever the animal excretes and gets rid of its waste, that seed will not have been broken down by its digestive system and it will grow in that animal's waste. And it's a very successful way of dispersing seeds. There's seed dispersal by water, where seeds are large and they can float and travel along streams or along the sea. Or there's seed dispersal by bursting. And there's various flowers and plants that will explode as they dry out, spreading the seeds large distances. And humans disperse seeds as well by eating them and then by their seeds being passed through the human waste and through the digestive system. So that's a very quick summary of what you've done so far. And again, like I've said, none of that should have been new. It's just to make sure that everyone's at the same level when you go on to the next activity. So what are you going to do now? So the first thing is have a go at the quick quiz. Now this quiz is not a test, it's not an assessment, it's just to give me an idea of where you're at and if there are any particular areas that you need to go back over. It shouldn't take long. Most of the answers are multiple choice, and then the last couple are longer answers where you can type something in. The second thing, I would like you to produce a progress poster or a mind map. So this is going to be a one-page document, so don't go any bigger than one page. And I want you to divide it under the 4 areas that we've just looked at. So plant classification, flower structure, pollination, and seed dispersal. Now, on your assignment, I've added a keyword sheet. You could use that keyword sheet to help you with this. What I want you to put on there is what you understand so far from those topics. So if you know the different groups within plant classification and some examples of those groups, you could put that on there. If you can draw a labeled diagram of a flower, or if you've done a flower dissection that you can take a picture of, you could put that on there. If you've got examples of wind pollination and insect pollination, you could put that on there. And again, for seed dispersal. Now, it can be done on paper or it can be done digitally, but it does need to be submitted digitally. So if you do do it on paper, please take a picture of it and then submit that, please. Now, I would really like this to be a good quality, a high quality piece of work. So you've got part of today's lesson once you've done the quiz and watched this video, but then part of Tuesday's lesson as well will be allocated to completing this. Now, the deadline for this will be the end of Tuesday because I'll be doing a feedback lesson on Thursday. So I need Wednesday to be able to have a look at those, mark them, and then put a video together showing what everyone has done and be able to feed back to everyone else. So once you've finished watching this video, first thing to do is have a go at the quiz, and then the second thing to do is create that progress poster or that mind map using the keyword sheet to help you. You can have a look through this PowerPoint again, that will give you some clues, and remember to divide it up into those 4 sections. But it must only be one sheet, so please don't produce a huge PowerPoint file, just one sheet. So it's a very concise summary of what you've understood so far. So if you have a look at the assignment, all the information's there. Hopefully I'll remember to attach all the different documents. Thank you for watching.